Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy K. Laidlaw here from Heal Endometriosis Naturally. I hope that this finds you well today. Today's topic is referred to as a wolf in sheep's clothing. I was struck at how many fake people that there are in positions of great influence in our society, and in particular the medical field with vulnerable women with endometriosis. There are many prominent people who masquerade and pretend to have your best interests at heart, yet the opposite can be sadly true. To describe what I mean, let's look at the term a wolf in sheep's clothing more closely. In Aesop's fables, the wolf in sheep's clothing parable explains, once upon a time there was a wolf who found great difficulty in getting to the sheep, owing to the vigilance of the shepherd and his dogs. But one day it found the remnants of a skin of an old sheep that had been flayed and thrown aside. So the wolf put on the old sheep's skin over its own pelt and strolled down amongst the flock of sheep. A lamb that recognized the skin of the wolf was wearing as its old mother and began to follow the wolf in the sheep's clothing. The wolf then led the lamb a little apart from the flock and soon made a meal of her. And for some time to come, he continued to succeed in deceiving many other lambs and sheep and enjoying hearty meals. This fable is a warning that you cannot necessarily trust someone simply because they are wearing a white coat or appear to be kind and friendly. How often we have been deceived by an enemy who's disguised as a friend, or a person who appears to be charming and harmless, bearing a smile. My mother used to say, watch for the smiling assassin. Appearances can be deceptive. A wolf in sheep's clothing is a fable of biblical origin used to describe those playing a role contrary to the real character, with whom contact is dangerous, and in particular, false teachers. We can see this around us in the news, even recently. Last week in America, 60 physicians and pharmacists were charged with illegally handing out opioid prescriptions in what they say is the biggest crackdown of its kind in American history. Authorities say that they gave out 35 million improper prescriptions in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Alabama. Prosecutors described the doctors involved as drug dealers rather than medical professionals, and said they were seeing a total of about 28,000 patients at the time of their arrests. It's just staggering. Addiction made money for those unscrupulous characters, yet they pretended to be helping, in inverted commas, those who were in pain and suffering. Women with endometriosis are in high levels of excruciating pain, and they tend to go to the medical professions seeking relief and guidance. What is sad is many women just take the prescription without being aware of the risks. And anything that isn't natural or bioidentical to the body is a risk to the body, and in many ways, and in many cases, a poison. Many poor unsuspecting women with endometriosis who are prescribed opioids are unaware of the addictive and destructive nature of these medications and fall for the charm of the doctor who holds this esteemed, privileged, and highly influential position. A poison which causes more distress on the liver and creates more inflammation to an already inflamed body. And what the woman does not know is that none of these medications or surgeries actually even address the root cause or underlying reason for the pain, inflammation, and hormone imbalance. All these attempts are merely to manage at best the symptoms by taking opioid medications, but do not support the body in its own natural healing process. Opioid drugs and painkillers produce their own symptoms that can also slowly erode away the life of a woman to the point of exhaustion, chronic fatigue, or, as in my case, almost total organ failure. But unknowingly, women like yourself and like me of old would have taken these prescriptions based on trust. You, like them, like me, are all conditioned, or were all conditioned, to see doctors and medical professionals as godlike, all-knowing and all-powerful. But we have to remember that they are only human after all. And there are good and there are bad and there are in-between humans. But as an endoboss in training, a woman with endometriosis must at all costs ask questions and listen to her instincts above all else. For all you have left is yourself at the end of the day. Most women with endometriosis give out their body and the responsibility of it to a complete stranger. It tends to be that the fear of asking questions and taking time to make a decision causes more distress, and even doctors put shame upon women who do so, and it's not what a woman needs at a time of need. I believe if the medical field laid out all the risks and all the real side effects clearly, then fewer women like you or me would have become trapped in the hamster wheel of painkillers, drugs, and surgery. If I had known then what I know now, I never would have taken the painkillers, the drugs, and had the multiple surgeries that I did. And these medical professionals want you addicted to these damaging opioids. It is somewhat disturbing to read that some of the 32 million opioids were overprescribed. That's a huge amount. And how many women with endometriosis are now currently addicted to a substance they thought was going to help them from someone they thought was going to help them? A classic case of wolf in sheep's clothing. I used to be so very trusting of doctors and consultants, thinking that their professional duty somehow made them more trustworthy than the average human. We left the savannah plains and jungle a long time ago, and sadly left our gut instincts there as well in many ways. How often I would question and second guess advice that I was being given by a charming wolf, in inverted commas, in the medical field, only to be told to stop being too sensitive or neurotic by toxic friends or family. And they would say to me, well, doctors know best. But do they really? I would later deeply regret ignoring my instincts. Now I trust them over what anyone says. But back then I was seduced by the stranger in a white coat with letters after their names. I never took the time to call ex-patients and see how they were. It has been estimated that a high percentage, almost about 80% plus of women with endometriosis, has had a reoccurrence of symptoms within 6 to 8 weeks of surgery. Astoundingly poor odds. I never took the time to explore the side effects to slicing open my abdomen and roughly moving organs around and using a searing hot tongue to burn off evident endometriosis. Nope. Me, like millions of other trusting women, blindly committed over the responsibility of their body to a stranger who had their own agenda, and it wasn't with them in mind. After my 6th surgery, when I emailed the surgeon, almost borderline hysterical, that not only was my old symptoms returning, but new ones were developing, how he was full of disdain and dismissiveness. That arrogance and tone of, oh dear, here we have yet another hypochondriac eluded from him. Yet I had emptied out my savings account and put all of my trust into him to make me better. To wheel me into the operating theatre, clean me up, and then send me on my merry way back to life and back to work again. Yet when it was becoming apparent that his promised surgical procedure had failed, he washed his hands of me pretty swiftly. The wolf had become evident, and the sheep's clothing fell off to reveal the real man. And there was no care or interest in me. Of course, he did try to pursue the hysterectomy surgical procedure one more time, but I was at least wise to that. My poor mother had been promised that a hysterectomy would cure her of all her ills. Yet endometriosis returned within her within 3 months, along with a myriad of other new symptoms and side effects. My mother never got over the betrayal and the lies. She never got over the whole procedure, and she was never the same after that. The wolves had gathered around her bed prior to the surgery to gape in awe and in shock at the evidence of endometriosis, as they had never seen someone quite as bad as my mother. Somehow my mum had felt that they cared, that their interest was genuine and that they would help her. They never explained that removing the female sex organ means you never experience an orgasm again, and that the uterus is beautifully placed to keep the internal scaffolding in line, and that the bladder is displaced. Once separated by the uterus, it now falls on top of the intestines. It causes its own problems. Nor that the uterus provides essential hormones long after childbearing years, or the immediate throwing into a severe hot flushes and devastating menopause. My mum used to say, never trust doctors, Wendy. Doctors bury their mistakes. When I was young, in my naivety, I thought her perhaps a little harsh and that there had to be some good doctors. I do still like to believe that is the case and that the majority of doctors enter into the profession for the right reasons, but yet again, many enter for the wrong reasons. And as this news article highlights, there are many out there like that. These poor women who innocently approached their doctor with hopes of help, yet ended up addicted and still not addressing the underlying causes of whatever condition they went to their doctor about. And of course, there were men affected by this as well. And we know that there's many women with endometriosis on opioid medications and addicted to those. That is where the medical machine is flawed. It is awesome that it can do transplants and accident and emergency, but in many other realms, they struggle with conditions like endometriosis and adenomyosis, amongst others. The medical machine tries its best to manage the symptoms of endometriosis, but the management in many cases ends up exacerbating the symptoms, and that's where the hamster wheel of insanity begins. Endless visits to the doctors who you hope are loyal to your cause and have your best interests at heart. There are those that would say money is the root of all evil, but as the Bible says, it is the love of money above all else that is the concern here. To put money above a patient's health is a crime. To masquerade and falsely entice women into consuming highly addictive medicines and promote the promise of, in inverted commas, a cure through dangerous and damaging surgical procedures is the crime. There is no other industry in the world that would get away with such poor success rates for treatment. Now that I have been able to approach my endometriosis and adenomyosis and put them both into full remission for over 4 years now, it continues to be my mission to share that there is an alternative to the painkillers, drugs, and surgery, especially because of the damaging nature of them. I wish I'd had someone tell me to go slowly and ask more questions. I wish I'd had someone to explain that there was a real alternative to the painkillers, drugs, and surgery. I wish I'd had someone to fight for me, direct me, teach me, guide me out of endometriosis long, long ago, and long before I had to do it myself. I lost decades, just like millions of women who are still suffering like I used to, and I do not want any woman to end up as bedridden for as long as I did. To know now that it never needed to happen upsets me. To know now that small changes could have made a massive impact on my body still leaves me grieving a little even now. All those years that I lost out on life, the cancelled parties, the cancelled plans, and zero play, the negative impact on my career and ability to remain financially independent, and the years of fear and anxiety that all consumed me. This is why I do what I do now, to help empower you, help empower other women, educate you all about how to read what is happening in their body and listen to your instincts. For you know your body better than any other single person out there on the planet. But no one has ever told you that. But I'm telling you that now. It's true. You just need to learn how to interpret the code and the signs and the symptoms, like the old machine in wartime that was able, in World War II, that was able to defeat Hitler. You can learn how to decipher your own codes and then learn how to win the war currently going on in your body. You see, and you have heard me mention this before, but your body is always wanting to heal itself. That is a biological fact, and a very exciting fact at that. When I teach you how to crack the code, you can discover what is stopping that natural process from happening. What is essential is if your doctor is prescribing more medication and surgery that has not worked before, you have a right to question what is going on in your body and what he is prescribing. I've prepared a special do's and don'ts with doctors, a handout, which is free for you if you would like to feel your own power and get some guidelines as to what to ask your doctors ahead of taking the natural route. Once you start asking the right questions, you get the right answers for you. You cannot afford to leave it to a wolf. And if he or she is not a wolf, then hopefully they will support you in your endeavor to heal naturally. There's an amazing thing about healing naturally. It has no side effects. Isn't that amazing? But do also beware of those so-called other natural wolves in sheep's clothing out there too. I hope you've read my book and consider joining me in one of my online programs so you can keep moving forward in a positive way. One important aspect of this new journey is learning that it is not just one particular aspect that needs help and healing. It's a multimodal approach that needs to be addressed to the whole body, whole person, mind, body, and spirit. So do beware of practitioners who claim to help or cure with one treatment, pill, or method. It's worth repeating. It takes a multimodal approach to put your endometriosis and adenomyosis into remission. We're also impatient these days. We're looking for that one magic quick fix. It doesn't exist. It does take time, but it is possible. It's a whole body, whole brain, mind, and spirit approach to healing. And note, I use the word healing, not cure. Healing as in like you get a scab over your finger, if you cut it, that's the body's natural healing process. And that is why I get the long-term results I get with women who work with me. Now, some natural wolves make some weird and wonderful claims out there. Recently, I heard of a man who is promoting to women that with pelvic floor exercises, she can put her endometriosis into remission, which is fine on its own, but it would not address the underlying causes of the pain and somewhat is misleading to say the least when if it was that simple, any woman would have tried to have done that themselves. Another woman is masquerading online as helping naturally with endometriosis with weird and wonderful concoctions, yet she still shares how she has high levels of pain and suffering every month. So how does that work? How confusing is that to women? And a naturopath that one of my former students worked with was told by her naturopath that to put her on a particular hormone that actually increased estrogen in her body. Now, you already know that endometriosis is an estrogen dominant condition, so excess estrogen is not what a woman with endometriosis needs. And that within 4 weeks of taking this other hormone, she had developed cysts and was bedridden. Now, my client was able to turn everything around within 7 months following my online program. And then a nutritionist suggested to another client that it was wrong not to have any grains. Yet you should all know by now on my podcast that I absolutely clearly state that wheat is a well-known irritant to the intestinal tract, almost like sandpaper to already damaged intestines. And the problem is that there are a lot of well-meaning people out there with a little bit of knowledge, but don't understand endometriosis in its entirety. Now, whilst I do believe that many of these professionals have their clients' interests at heart, it does go to show that they don't get endometriosis enough to learn how to put the condition in remission. There are many wolves out there and they come in many disguises, so do not let the title or a name fool you. You only have one body and one life. It breaks my heart how many women suffer needlessly now and how with the right education, they and you can take back full power and control of your body and life. You do not have to blindly go back to the same people if you're getting progressively worse. Now remember, it's not your fault. It is their lack of education and understanding. Knowledge about our amazing bodies is expanding and growing every day. And it is your right to understand it yourself in regards to endometriosis. Women with endometriosis are highly sensitive and empathetic and are affected far more about their surroundings and environments and foods and products than many other people. It is this degree of sensitivity I implore you to pay attention to. Learn to love it. Learn to respect it. Learn to listen to that sensitivity above all else and above anyone else. No matter if it is a boyfriend or a partner or a parent. No matter if you're being told to don't be too sensitive. Sadly, the wolves also exist in the home. You know the ones who are all charming to others, yet behind closed doors they are moody, make you feel like you have to walk on eggshells, and are emotionally distant, like a form of punishment. Invariably, it'll be the ones closest to you that you may see last. Trauma bonding from childhood is another subject for another time, but it can sometimes be reenacted in many relationships. And sometimes those relationships are projected onto a surgeon or a consultant or a doctor whom you wish with all your heart to help you. If you have suffered at the hands of a medical wolf, do not despair. Your body is amazing. You can get back control anytime you decide to take the first step on a new path. Just come back to yourself. The only sure way to protect yourself from future wolves is to listen to your instincts above all else, at all times, and to surround yourself with safe, caring people who want you well. No matter what, because you are all you have in the end. And of course, you have us growing movement of women who now refer to ourselves as endobosses. It shows your growth and a sign of strength to reach out to support from me and our community if you need be. But don't suffer alone and in silence. Your time is now. Keep you number one to your health.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one. The world needs a healthy you.